So I didn't really expect to enjoy Call of Duty. If someone had told me, hey, so during the busy release season this year, the game you're going to enjoy the most so far is Call of Duty, and it's also just the beta that doesn't even have the part of the game that you are actually anticipating the most contained within it, I would have honestly laughed in their face. I don't despise Call of Duty, not by any stretch, but I just couldn't really picture the game recapturing my interest. Year after year, Call of Duty, at least to me, has been on a downward slide. This trend was somewhat reversed with Black Ops 4, but the reason behind that was a bit of a hero shooter bent to it. With Black Ops 4, the multiplayer began to resemble something more akin to Overwatch than the previous versions. Obviously still quite far removed, but the trend was progressing in a different direction, it seemed. Well, with the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare beta, that trend has not just been reversed, it has been snapped back the opposite direction to a place more akin to Rainbow Six Siege or Counter-Strike. Obviously, again, these are extremely loose comparisons, but the idea is to paint a picture of radical change, at least radical change within the framework of COD still remaining COD and not being altered into a different game entirely. Modern Warfare has already come under fire, not because of the multiplayer, well, not because of anything reasonable within the multiplayer, but rather because of a pesky little kill streak reward called white phosphorus. Oh, the humanity. Never mind the fact that poison gas has been used, attack dogs, nukes, and whatever else, the white phosphorus is just a shade too far. But back in the realm of consumer realism, ignoring the mainstream gaming media, no one actually cares. The second way the game has already been attacked is a function of its single-player narrative. With the Modern Warfare soft reboot, there is an increased emphasis on gritty, morally ambiguous storytelling that presents hectic and controversial decision-making and scenarios. To me, this is one of the more appealing aspects to the game. It's a flavorful bonus to have journalists crying about their rattled sensitivity or whatever it is, but the main reason this appeals to me is because with recent Call of Duty iterations, the emphasis on impactful storytelling has been largely removed. The franchise went so far as to remove the single-player campaign entirely in Black Ops 4, and while the game still had a wealth of content, as well as absolutely ridiculous microtransactions, but more on that later on, it was utterly without value in terms of an individual story to tell. With Modern Warfare, this yet again has snapped sharply back the opposite way, so as to make the single-player component a driving force behind both its marketing and broader appeal. I am personally excited to see what the story has to offer, and will almost certainly be reviewing the game at and after launch. But in the lead up to that point, we now have a beta offering, which is finally accessible on the Xbox One, which is where I am choosing to play it. And given the distinctly different approach to this version when compared to the previous trajectory, I thought it well worth discussing the beta and my first impressions of the multiplayer gameplay. First things first, the time to kill is down, way down. The push towards constant self-trigger healing after every single fight is gone, and while there is still the age-old Call of Duty standard in terms of fast-paced spawn, run, die gameplay in most of the multiplayer modes, it has altered the format to be at least slightly more tactical, careful, and meticulous. I was and am immediately impressed by the menus and the layout. The game is clean, the organization is solid, and where some games, cough Borderlands 3, cough cough, have horrific menu lag on console, the COD beta is running smooth, feels responsive, and emulates what I would expect from a subsequent iteration on a franchise that has been running for well over a decade. On a personal level, I greatly enjoyed my playtime. The gun customization seems quite fluid, there are positives and negatives to the individual attachments and even unique weapon perks as well, but there isn't a large departure on what we have already seen. Kill streaks are there, nothing unexpected in that department, but the real change comes with the map design, and from that, I have already seen a somewhat divisive mindset emerge within the Call of Duty community. I wouldn't claim to have researched this extensively, but there are a number of threads which gained a decent amount of traction, honestly, which sprung up on Twitter, citing the map design as too open. The fundamental criticism here is that there is a very large departure from the 3-lane system, which had become a staple in Call of Duty multiplayer for many years. For those that don't really know what that means, it's a basic design where maps are largely broken down into 3 lanes, left, right, and center. Within those lanes, there are, or at least have been for quite some time, specific points that become popular to hold. Highly competitive games utilize a rotation and certain control points where corners and angles can be pre-fired or head glitched, if you will, which is where the player simply has a tiny portion of their head visible while being able to fire at enemies who come into view. Those became the most popular way to play. This meta gameplay has been around for quite a while and become rather dependable. Call of Duty, however, did not always take such a form. In the earlier days, with the original Modern Warfare story arc in particular, maps were far more open, utilizing a myriad of entrances and exits to any given location. The result of this was that players needed to have a much more complex tactical awareness in order to succeed, and coordination was typically rewarded far more than individual prowess. With Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and a very pronounced return to such a map format, at least from what I have seen so far, this gameplay style is back, and it is likely going to be somewhat controversial. Another major feature is crossplay. In order to use crossplay, players need to make an Activision account, which I'm not a fan of because it's Activision and I hate them, but once that's done, you can play with friends on any other platform. Thankfully, this is opt-in, opt-out, and there is an option to completely disable it. Given the distinct advantage that PC players enjoy when it comes to hardware capabilities, aim response, and various other factors, it is somewhat necessary to have a barrier between true comprehensive crossplay and a more social approach. As far as I can tell right now, you can opt in, opt out between crossplay and platform specific, and then once you have grouped, let's say, with a friend that plays mouse and keyboard while you play with a controller on Xbox, you get thrown into a mixed bag, if you will, that type of system, where it is entirely random. I appreciate this. To put it in the most basic of terms, it's unbalanced as all hell, but it offers a social level to the gameplay which is rather nice. I do have a couple of friends on PC who it would be fun to play with if they ever actually follow through on it. They know who they are. Hey, if you're watching this, you better play on Sunday. I found myself massively enjoying certain modes and hating others. The night vision angle is kind of neat in a novelty sort of way, but that wears off pretty quickly, at least in my opinion, and my real enjoyment seemed to come from headquarters. The pacing is broken up nicely by the mode itself, with the intrinsic fast-paced fight over the objective phase, and then the slower-paced point defense immediately after, but this on top of the new approach to kill time and player health creates an even better dynamic that sincerely brought me back to the days where I could sit in my dorm room for hours on end just playing Call of Duty. There are a few noteworthy additions to the game as well, ranging from larger domination maps which feel much more akin to a Battlefield game than previous Call of Duty titles, all the way down to a tightly packed 2v2 mode, which I don't admittedly have any experience with, but the juxtaposition of those two massively different styles helps build up the anticipation for a title that is well-rounded from top to bottom and provides something for almost any player. I will say I hated Ground War mode with its 32v32 in vehicles. Because of the spawn system and the layout, you literally just die constantly to someone you don't see. There is some flexibility within that for a player that has a high level of individual skill, but a great deal of the time that you spend is just spawning and then just immediately being gunned down in a split second by someone you had absolutely no idea was there, and the game decided to put you right in front of their gun anyways when you spawned. It's there for players that like it, same as the night vision mode, same as the 2v2 and whatever else, but personally I thought it sucked. On the theme of whatever else, though I have not dug into any meaningful degree as of right now, there appears to be strong indications in the code that the Battle Royale mode will be making a return. I won't speak to this further than simply acknowledging the rumors. If there is more substantial evidence to prove or disprove those rumors at this time, I am unaware. But with the content scope we see right now, I find it entirely plausible that Battle Royale will come back to round out the experience. Now, though, we get to the speculative monetization. Activision Blizzard is one of the worst companies in the entire industry when it comes to monetization tactics, largely responsible for pioneering the trend of waiting till a month after release to price gouge their consumers and add in all the nasty shit that would have tanked the reviews initially on launch day. They have no shame when it comes to what they sell either. Smiley face reticles, simple dot reticles for real-world currency, and even reusing material from past games with no changes whatsoever. There is also evidence of a loot box slash supply drop system of some kind that players have reportedly uncovered, and I can't speak to the validity of claims that it will stay cosmetic only, and have little faith that such a claim could or would remain true, but at this point all we have is the track record of the franchise and the publisher, which points to them weaving in purchases at a breakneck speed post-launch. I fully expect there to be the exact same monetization in Modern Warfare as existed in Black Ops 4, perhaps even a month or two after launch, I'm not sure. But purely from a gameplay perspective, the return to a more grounded style of tactical combat, complete with maps that diverge from the now, in my opinion, stagnant meta of 3-lane pseudo-camping, has given Call of Duty a comparable breath of fresh air to what Black Ops 4 did, with its increase in time to kill just in the opposite direction and to a much better effect. This is, of course, highly subjective. The slot machine effect that Call of Duty has boasted for many years, where one can simply spawn, run, and either get a kill on someone that does not see you or be killed by someone you did not see, is still in full effect. And not only that, with the regression on map design to the much more open approach, that randomness to the gameplay that many describe as unappealing is probably going to be quite a bit worse. But from a surface level impression of this beta, with the customization, the mode diversity, the new gameplay pacing, and everything else combined, I have greatly enjoyed this game, far more than I thought that I would. When the time comes, I will happily be reviewing the game and also looking forward to the approach that they take with the single player. I didn't expect to have anything other than aggressive skepticism towards Call of Duty, but Modern Warfare has started to entice me. That's it for today, though. If you want to support, as always, there are links down below, Patreon, merch, Twitter, and whatever else, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.